So I wanted to make a video here to discuss something that's pretty close to my own heart because of my own life experiences. I'm far from a teenager, despite how I look. I know I look young, but I'm closer to middle-aged than adolescence at this point by a long shot. I am 6 years from my 40th birthday. Anyway, but I remember being a teenager, and I remember how much the adults in my life would tease me and do things like saying, that I was angsty and an emo kid and this, that, and another thing. I can't say that I didn't listen to some emo music and such. Can't even say that I wasn't a little bit of an emo kid or that I wasn't angsty ever. But, just a little bit of an aside here to people who are a little bit older than me and to the people my age will be in a few years, because you will have teenagers. And sometimes they will be angsty, sometimes they will be emo. And sadly, sometimes your teenager will have an actual mental illness, which I didn't realize was the case with me until it came to a head. It wasn't really something we discussed in school at all. And when I was, if you've watched any of these videos, you know this, but when I was about 15 or 16 years old, I made the first of what would be many suicide attempts. At the point, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, which I still have as a 34-year-old. I'm learning to manage it, obviously, as someone in their 30s. Not that I don't have some scary points with it. I did this year. But it's not quite the same as when you're a teenager and all the hormones are raging and everybody sees you and say, hey, that's an angsty teenager. You are doing this, that, or the next thing for attention. My favorite is always, you're cutting yourself for attention. And if you could see me right now, all of my scars are on my upper arm because I purposefully made sure that I could cover up with a t-shirt because I get hot so easily. To the point of nobody knowing. And it was just a couple of years ago that I really started wearing tank tops again. Decided if people know, they know. And I can't be bothered by that. So I'm certainly not alone in that. Certainly not the only person with that in their history. But yeah, it's hard, but there are a lot of very young people who are going through the sort of thing that I went through when I was younger, and that scares me in a way, especially people whose parents were a lot like mine, who didn't take what was going on at all seriously. I had my first psychiatric hospitalization at 22, and I really should have had it at 15 or 16. It was right after that attempt. It was what the doctors wanted for me, but not what my parents wanted for me. And I see now that it probably would have been beneficial. And if my parents had taken things a little bit more seriously, maybe I would have too. And maybe it would have saved me some suffering in college. Which is the other point in people's lives where things go terribly, horribly wrong. And they did for me too. So I'm not a parent. I've chosen not to be a parent, but I have nieces and nephews, and I'm forever going to be watching them for, you know, the signs where it's crossing over, where it's not just angst, you know, or they're not just being a little emo or trying to be punk rock. For the signs that your child actually has a problem. Which, like I said, happens. It happens more often, I think, than any of us would like to think. I look back and I realize that the person that a lot of these things that I remember them happening to, the person I was at the time is someone that I would consider a kid at this point. Not that I'm really insulting you by calling you a kid if you are younger like that, but to someone in their mid-30s, you do seem rather young if you're sub 25. Maybe even sub 22. I'd say sub 22. You seem very, very young. And I was very, very young. And, you know, I guess I would say I'd be very protective, especially of someone that age that was obviously going through something. I mean, the signs were there. I wasn't good at all at hiding it at that point in my life. And like I said again, I know it can be hard for parents to tell what at that point, because you are young, you are an adolescent. What is, you know, being an adolescent, which itself is a personality change, and what is a pathological personality change. It's a lot easier when you're around someone who is an adult because they already have that personality. And then if their personality changes radically, you know something's going on. Like me, I'm generally a very nice person. I don't like confrontation. I tend to be fairly chatty. And when I'm not, when I'm irritable, when I'm quiet, my friends automatically are cued in that something is going on. And sorry about that. And, you know, as a teenager, I don't really remember it all that well, but I remember being very, very angry a lot. I did get some, you know, sometimes where I was very lethargic too. I get that now too. I shift between being very lethargic and being very agitated with the depression. Lethargic is actually probably a little bit better in terms of me in some ways. It's when I'm agitated like that that I'm really a danger to myself. And quite often in those younger years I was. And it didn't occur to me at that point in my life that I could ask for help, that was an option. I didn't even realize that was an option until I was 22. I was basically out of that period of my life and becoming a real, actual adult. Trademark. And having a housemate just see that I was struggling. I wish I could remember my housemate's name here because I'd like to say thank you, but you know who you are. You You saved my life that day. And I was probably a little agitated at you for taking me to the hospital, but yeah, you saved my life. So, thanks. And I think that's about all I have to say. Bye.